I'm Scott Blair. I purchased after a lot of thought, a townhome in the Village at Coral Gables. I'm excited to share my experience with you. So we are 7 and 5. We live in Coral Gables 7 months of the year, 5 months of the year in coastal Rhode Island. We came to Coral Gables about 4 years ago, 2 months prior to COVID, and then we got stuck here in Coral Gables. Terrible place to get caught. And we fell in love with the area and started looking at all of the different building projects. I've always been interested in historical renovation, historical construction. It started in high school when I worked for the Historical Society in my town for a senior project. And I've always just been captivated by architectural that was influenced by a period in time or another part of the world. And I've always been fascinated with those types of things. I had just gotten done reading a book about the history of all of the major areas of Florida development during the 1920s. And I had read about George Merrick and Misner and all the greats in Florida. And coincidentally, at the same time, I had heard about the villages at Coral Gables. And I said, okay, I'm just gonna go over and look into this and start to research it. And that's what started the process rolling. It was really by reading a book that I had been reading. And, the fact that MG was building on George Merrick's architectural legacy, I found it kind of interesting the way that a car manufacturer would all of a sudden reintroduce a vintage model from the 60s, reinterpreted in the 2020s. I think it's very interesting when you think about the trailblazing that George Merrick did during that time period when Florida was just booming. And it's kind of interesting that Alirio and MG and their associates kind of surfaced in Florida, in Coral Gables, just as things were starting to lift off, and then they were accelerated by COVID. And I think Alirio and associates are trailblazers of the new architectural world, delivering extraordinary products, if you can call housing product, it's generally a product, delivering extraordinary products to people that want a certain type of detailed lifestyle that is very curated for perfection. We lived in Greenwich, Connecticut for 25 years, 3 different houses. We restored houses before. We built a few houses in Rhode Island. So we're always looking for the next great adventure. And for us, one of the great adventures is going to be enjoying some time. So the Village will take my weekends and give them back to me. And I think what we're excited to do is kind of get into the unit, kind of sit back, let it breathe for a little while, and then figure out our design palette. And the other exciting thing, I think, is to get to know 48 or 47 new neighbors. It's kind of fun to get to know new people in a new community, and it's legitimately a community. And that was exciting for us. You'll see people that you see daily. We live in a building right now with about 20 units, and we see people, and we've forged really good relationships for holidays and happy hours and Christmas parties and all different events. But it's nice to have a whole new cycle. A lot of the people in that building have lived there for 20 years, so we're newcomers. So it'll be exciting to get in on the ground floor, so to speak, and lift off with other new neighbors. So initially, I didn't realize that concierge service was included in my purchase. I have used concierge services back east. In fact, I still use my concierge doctor back east. I travel for my annual physical. I've probably been doing concierge services for about 15 years. So I was a very early adapter because I had a doctor and she was converting to the concierge model. And I had a conversation with my late father-in-law, who had a great deal of knowledge, skill, and ability in the healthcare industry. And initially, I was a little bit taken back by the cost of entry on it. And my father-in-law basically said to me, he goes, any important doctor in this country eventually will be migrating over to that model. And so I like to try to study before the exam instead of after the test. And I thought to myself that if I could get the piece of real estate that I wanted and I could get entry for life into this concierge program, that it was probably something that would benefit me down the road. I'm trying to do everything right so that I can enjoy this purchase for many, many, many years to come. And this is just one more little switch, so to speak, that I can hit so that I can and my wife and I can both continue to stay healthy and enjoy this exciting new home.